It's okay. It's gonna be okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you to all of you who are here in the chat already. Thanks for joining me. As always, if you're watching me live and you have questions that you want to ask in the chat, just hold on to them for a few minutes, because I'm going to start as usual by going through some comments that were left on my Patreon on my Patreon page, and also in the previous the archived version of the previous stream. Just a second. Hang on a second. That's how you can tell that I'm a professional, is that I cough within 10 seconds of starting the show. So let's take a look at some of the pre-submitted questions in the Patreon page. And the first one comes from Larryelecman, and I see Larry in the chat. Hi, Larry. Larry actually has two questions in the Patreon post, and he very strategically, I think, and very intentionally, he might deny this, he might plead innocent, but I think this was very intentional on Larry's part. He asked the first question, and then like 15 minutes ago, he left another comment and asked a second question, knowing, or at least strongly suspecting, that he would get the first and the last question in the patron question section. So I'm onto your shit, Larry, okay? Just so we're clear, okay? I know what's going on here. Anyway, Larry's first question is, I caught the last Ask Away just before the ending. I heard you were yelling at your nipples? What did they do this time? Does anyone else remember this? I don't remember yelling at my nipples. Maybe I should go back and watch the last show. I don't recall yelling at my nipple. I don't know if I've ever yelled at my nipples, to be quite honest. I don't know. Of all the parts of my body, I think my nipples are probably the parts that have betrayed me the least, at least so far. So I've never had a reason to yell at them. Why would I have been? I don't recall us ever having quarreled. So no, I don't remember yelling at my nipples, Larry. I think that's probably just something that you're bringing to the table, and that's baggage that you have to deal with. And I kind of resent you putting that on me, to be honest. Let's go to the next patron question from Tom MacDonald. Tom, I believe, is also in the chat. Hi, Tom. Tom says, what is your earliest memory from your childhood? I don't remember anything before my father died when I was 3.5 years old. I have a memory from later in that year of running around with a gang of kids near a golf course. One of the older guys scavenged lost golf balls to sell back to golfers, and I remember clearly he had a big gunny sack full of them in his closet. I can even smell the fabric of the sack. That's quite a potent memory you've got there, Tom. I think my earliest memory, the earliest one that I can identify, is of going to Gettysburg battlefield with my mom and my dad, and I have a very general memory of being there, and I remember specifically my dad picking me up and putting me on a cannon and taking a photograph, and I think I was 3. Somewhere between 3 and 4. That's the earliest memory I think I have. There's another memory that might be, I can't remember if it's before or after that, but it was in that same year where we had a terrible blizzard, and there was just feet of snow outside. And this was also, again, when I was about 3. And I went outside to play in the snow. My mom took me outside to play in the snow. I was all bundled up, you know, I had my coat and my snow pants and everything. And I fell over sideways, and I landed in the snow, like sideways. And I couldn't get up because the snow was so deep that I was just completely down, and all you could see was the side of me that was facing up. And I was stuck in the snow. And I remember being stuck and not being able to get up, and asking for help, and my mom running inside to get the camera and coming back out and again taking a photograph of me while I was trapped in the snow. And then, of course, putting the camera away and helping me up, and I was fine. And that photograph still exists somewhere. If I had the foresight, I would have called my dad and seen if he could dig through the closet and find it, because I'm pretty sure it's at the house somewhere. But yeah, there's a photograph of like 3-year-old me trapped in the snow during a terrible blizzard. During, I guess it was the blizzard of '83 around here. So yeah, those two, either Gettysburg being put on the cannon or trapped in the snow while mom takes a photograph. Though one of those two is my earliest memory that I can think of. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's as far back as it goes. Next question is from Series Drennen, and I hope that I am pronouncing that somewhat correctly. Series Drennen. I apologize if I have completely ruined your name. Apologies if you have spoken about this before. Feel free to ignore if you have. I feel like I have never actually heard many criticisms of Jesus or the philosophy attributed to him by those critical of the Bible and of Christianity. Instead, I often hear the argument that his philosophies are distorted in practice by Christians. He seems almost well respected among some atheists, even those who have very little interest in respecting Christianity as a religion. Do you have any thoughts on this? Have you seen many criticisms of him in terms of his philosophy or as a construct? And how do you feel about him as a cultural figure? I ask because even though I'm an atheist, I just kind of can't help but like the dude, even though I think he is a fictional construct. Well, you know, I think that it's difficult to put a finger on what the philosophy of Jesus is, because I think if you read Jesus, if you read the New Testament and you discover the Jesus that is depicted there, there are multiple philosophies that you could derive from that, and they're not all harmonious. You know, they can contradict each other, and I think there is a philosophy of Jesus that you can derive from the New Testament that is very laudable, that is very positive, that is something that you could recommend to other people and say, live your lives this way. There is certainly a very moral Jesus to be found in the New Testament. I think it's the Jesus that Thomas Jefferson saw when he made his, when he edited the Jefferson Bible, one of the great audacious works of editing in the history of English literature, where Thomas Jefferson says, I'm gonna edit the Bible, and he comes up with his version of the New Testament that is with all of the supernatural stuff trimmed away, and it's mostly just a collection of the biography of Jesus and the moral teachings of Jesus. And that version of Jesus that Jefferson discovers is fairly moral and upstanding. But even then, you know, there are contradictory things. Jesus seems to have a philosophy that is based on peace and forgiveness and charity, and that's fantastic. That's a wonderful philosophy. But there are also bits in there that are extremely judgmental. There are also parts of Jesus' story where he, to me, he doesn't behave in a very admirable way, or he shows that he has he behaves in kind of a petulant way, or he behaves in sort of an irrational way. And I guess if you want to just ignore those and say, well, we won't derive our philosophy from those incidents, we'll rather focus on these, I mean, that's fine. But I don't know if you can say then that that is in any accurate way the philosophy of Jesus. If you're basing it on what his words and actions were as depicted in the New Testament. So it's hard to pick on, it's hard to say, well, this is the philosophy of, not so moral from it, I'm sure. You know, it's just the way a lot of people read the Bible, the way you pick what works for you, or you pick what resonates with you, and you sideline the rest, you know. So yeah, as a cultural figure, I do wish that Jesus, the guy who preached help the poor, you know, give to the poor without condition, love your neighbor, for, you know, be forgiving, be gentle, be kind, honor the peacemakers. I would love if that Jesus were a cultural figure in the United States, and to some people he is, but to many other people, the Jesus that they seem to honor is not like that at all. He's basically just a rubber stamp for whatever they want to do, and they say, well, we're doing it in the name of Jesus, and it doesn't really matter if it bears any resemblance to anything that the character depicted in the New Testament would approve of or recommend or not. So yeah, if the moral Jesus of that Thomas Jefferson spoke about, where he called him the greatest moral teacher in history. I don't think I would go quite that far, but if you're looking at the Jesus of help the poor, I think that I would love for that Jesus to be a major cultural figure. Unfortunately, he's not really, at least not in the United States, not right now. Next is now I pronounced his name Tim Fish last time. He informs me that that is not how his name is pronounced, although he has not furnished me with the correct pronunciation of his name yet. So I'm going to guess Tim Fish. Maybe that's it. If not, I apologize, Tim, for getting your name wrong, not once, but twice, if it's not Fish. Anyway, the question is, what would you put on a t-shirt to sum up the basis for your morals? I don't know if I can sum up the basis for my morals in a slogan for a t-shirt. Because if I could come up with something, but it would sound really cheesy and glib, and I don't know. I mean, reach down to lift people up. You know, I think that's a good foundation for morality. Find people who are doing worse than you are, and if possible, help them out. You know, reach down, punch up, reach down. How about that? Hey, there you go. There's my morality t-shirt. Punch up, reach down. You know, or reach down, pull up. Reach down to find people and pull them up. Yeah, that's probably as close as you're going to get to a pithy little moral slogan. That could fit on a t-shirt. Next is from Dave Edwards. I think I caught Dave in the chat earlier when I first started. I haven't peeked at the chat for a few minutes, by the way. But I think Dave is there. Hi, Dave. Dave says, have you purposely decided to de-atheist your channel in favor of more social and pop commentary? I don't think it's quite accurate to say I have purposefully de-atheisted the channel. I think it's something that has happened relatively naturally, and it's something I'm okay with. I mean, I don't feel like I need to go back and start doing more atheist-themed content. If I get an idea for a video that is sort of an atheist-oriented video, I'll still do the video. Like, I'm still an atheist. I still think that having a somewhat reasonable, socially conscious, progressive voice as an atheist, I think we need all of those we can get, and I try to be one of those, but I didn't decide to say, okay, I'm not going to do as much atheism, I'm going to do more, you know, social commentary and more pop culture commentary. Those things just sort of happen because those are also things that I'm interested in and that I have opinions on and that I feel I can contribute to in some small way, and the atheism just sort of naturally faded into just one of many things that I talk about. There is still gonna, when I finish the next Atheist Read series next year, there will still be atheist content on the channel, or at least there will be religion related content on the channel, but it will not be in the same way. It will not be like an Atheist Reads. It'll be very different. But I do want to still have, I want to have content that does say things from an atheist point of view, or that does have things to say about religion, or about people who abuse their religion or use their religion for harmful things. Like, I do want to continue to speak about that and to make videos that comment on that. But yeah, I haven't intentionally dialed down the atheism. It's just something that has happened when I started talking about other stuff that weren't necessarily atheist related, and I'm completely okay with that. And I'm very grateful to my viewers who have stuck around. I'm sure there were some people who were like, oh God, if he's not going to talk about atheism, then I'm out of here. And that's anybody's right. But you know, I'm happy that people have stuck around and stuck with me and watched the videos that I've made about other stuff and found something of interest in them as well, and enabled me to continue to do this, even though it's not a lot of atheist stuff all the time. You know, I think I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, there's still atheist stuff coming. It's just one of many different things that I like to look at and pay attention to and talk about. Next is Jon Brockman. From the cast of Stephen Stuffy, from the cast of Stephen Stuffy, who would Millicent murder, marry, fuck? That's a good question. You know, I believe Millicent is in the live chat helping to moderate. Maybe she would be a better She would be a better person to ask. But no, okay. What's the? It's Stephen Stuffy, Millicent, fuck, marry, kill, basically. Okay, Millicent. Well, we have to say she would fuck Toby Benson, because that's history. She's already fucked Toby Benson. Her and Toby Benson used to date. It's part of Millicent's backstory. It's never been portrayed in the show. They were exes by the time they entered the show. But so she would fuck Toby Benson because that's already happened. And she's not going to want to fuck like other non-Huskies. She's already slummed it already. So she'll cross that off the list for Toby. So she'll fuck Toby. She'd probably marry Stuffy, because Stuffy's the one you marry. Stuffy's the marrying. He's the spouse material in the cast. And kill probably me. She would probably kill me. So she would fuck Toby Benson, she would marry Stuffy, and she would kill me if she had the choice. Because I mean, to Huskies like Millicent, there's a lot of resentment toward humans, because from their perspective, humans have sort of, you know, usurped their rightful place at the top of the food chain and have ruined the world. So if she's going to kill anybody in our group, she would kill a human, and that's me. So unfortunately, I think Millicent would kill me. And next, this is God, what a question. This from some random geek who was also in the chat. Hi, some random geek. Wrote me a little book here. Okay, so some random geek's question is, oh my God, that I don't believe in all of this Twitter drama. Okay, question now. From your own point of view, what do you think of the Twitter drama that happened over the weekend in the progressive YouTube community? What do you know? What do you think of Claudia Brown / ranting feminist being friends with June / shoe on head, who is friends with Lauren Southern? Have you seen Tim Blake / Demotivator's video on this subject, which he posted earlier today? What do you think of Christy Winters aiding the alt-right, or just leaving a comment on one of JF's videos? What do you think of the deletion of the secret Facebook group? Side note, I actually wanted to be a part of that Facebook group. I always wanted to be a part of the Hangouts that you, Christy, Michael, and Kevin are often and still do. Part of the reason I wanted to cover social justice topics on my channel, which I haven't done yet. And final question, what do you think of Bering's YouTube channel being deleted, at least for 2 days or however long it was? Thoughts? Love the show as always, Steve. Well, thank you for all of those questions. Let's go back and take them one at a time. Okay, well, I know a little bit about the Twitter drama. I haven't been following it super closely because it just really bores me, and I've kept up with Christy's side of things because Christy is my friend, and Christy has kept me and other friends of hers posted as to how things are going from her side of things. And I mean, obviously, if push comes to shove, I'm Team Christy. I'm on Christy's side. I don't think she has done anything wrong in any of this that I can tell. I like Ranting Feminist. She and I have always gotten along. I think we still follow each other on Twitter, and I believe we're Facebook friends. I don't have any particular animosity toward her. I think she's fine. I think she has never expressed any kind of problem with me. But I don't get why anyone would want to be friends with Shoe on Head, especially if you consider yourself a feminist, especially if feminism or women's rights or social justice, social equality for any group is important to you. I don't see why you would want to stand in the same room and breathe the same oxygen as a person like Shoe on Head. I think she's a horrible person. She's a horrible, shitty person. And I would not be her friend. And if I, for some reason, were somehow had been privately her friend, I would certainly not take it upon myself to publicly defend her when people attack her for doing and saying shitty things, which she does regularly. So I don't get where Claudia is coming from there. I get if you're friends with someone and you see your friend being attacked, you want to stand up for your friend, but I have very little sympathy for someone saying, well, I'm going to take up for June because she's my friend. I don't get why I don't get why she's your friend. And maybe you're not asking me to get it. It's not my business. It's not for me to judge. That's fine. But from where I sit, I don't get why she's your friend. I think she's awful. And the people she runs with are awful. And the people she associates with and takes up for and defends are awful. And I would not want to associate myself with that. I would not want to defend that or you know, stand up next to that, even if it's just, well, I don't agree with her, but she's my friend. I don't get it. I think she's garbage. And what was the other one? Yeah, I don't think Christie's aiding the alt-right. I don't think Christie having private messages with someone is the same as publicly defending a shitty person. I know. Look, I don't have private message exchanges with shitty people either. If someone is an alt-right person or a shitlord or an anti-feminist or whatever, and they send me a private message, I almost always just delete it without even responding. I have no desire to interact with them at all. But if someone else like Christie, or I know Kevin Logan has also opened dialogues with people in the past. Eli Bosnick has opened dialogues with people in the past, both privately and publicly. People that I think are just fucking garbage who shouldn't even be on YouTube. And you know, I don't agree with that. I don't think there's any use in doing that. I don't think there's anything to be accomplished there. But if other people see a reason to do that, I mean, I don't think they're bad people for doing it. And I think there's a distinction between doing something like that and coming out and saying, hey, don't say anything bad about so-and-so. They're my friend. I just think there's a different thing going on there. You know, it's one thing to be willing to talk to someone, to open a dialogue with someone in private for whatever reason, for strategic purposes or just to keep a line of communication open. There's a difference between that and coming out publicly, repeatedly, and standing up for and defending as a friend a person who is absolutely indefensible, as Siobhan Head is. So, no, I don't think there's any hypocrisy there on Christie's part. I don't think that she's secretly supporting the alt-right or anything like that. I've never seen any evidence of that. And as I said, Christie's my friend. She's one of my best friends on the internet, and I think she's a good person. And if push comes to shove and I absolutely positively have to choose a side, I'm choosing her side. And I don't even really have to think about it. And as for what was the Bearing losing his channel, I think it's sad that it was deleted for him, apparently for spam or for misleading practices, for misleading advertising, when it should have been deleted years ago because he routinely violates community guidelines. And I mean, is there a video on his channel that doesn't consist of him cannibalizing other people's content and insulting them and attacking them and inciting harassment against them? I mean, the guy's entire channel is an abuse and harassment channel. I don't understand why it's allowed to exist. It should have been banned for that. And it should have happened years ago, not a couple weeks ago for a couple days because of a product he was selling or something. I think that was the explanation offered. But yeah, he shouldn't have a YouTube channel at all. And it should be because of what he does in all of his videos. Not because of, you know, some product he was selling that was misleading or whatever. Okay, next question. And here we go. The last one from patrons. And then after I answer this question, I'll go to the live chat and take some questions from the live chat for a little while. Next is the last one from Larryelecman, who says, I hit 500 downloads and I'm excited about that. Wait, shit, I'm supposed to ask a question here. Your sound quality is really good. What kind of setup do you have and how many arms and legs will it cost me? I saw you tweet about that, Larry, actually. 500 downloads for your podcast. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm really happy for you, and I was happy to be on one of those shows. That's great. Well, the mic that I'm using for this, the mic that I use for live streams, is a Blue Snowball, and that's a pretty cheap mic. It's just it'll run you probably about $50 depending on where you get it, and it's pretty much an entry-level mic, really. I use it for live streams and for webcam stuff, and it's just a USB mic. And it's relatively cheap. One of my next upgrades in my equipment will probably be to upgrade this mic to get a better mic to use for these things and for when I record podcast stuff with Jason. I want to get a USB Yeti condenser mic, which is also a USB mic, and that costs about $250. So I'm building up to that. That's still relatively cheap. I mean, if you want to get like a super, super nice microphone, they can get way more expensive than that. $250 is still pretty much a budget mic. But a lot of other people use the Blue Yeti for their stuff, and it sounds good. And I'm probably going to get one of those in the next few months, hopefully. And for my videos with my camera, with my nice camera, with my Canon that I use when I shoot most of my videos, I've been using a Rode SmartLav Plus, which is a portable mic that I put on my shirt under my collar. and that cost me $75, I think, $75 or $80. And then I had to get an adapter for it so it could plug into my recorder, which was another like 15 bucks. So look, you're looking at maybe a total of somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 for the portable mic that I use for my videos. But if you're just doing podcasts, you know, probably the something like the Blue Snowball or the Yeti would be good if you want to upgrade from whatever you use now. Maybe that's what you are using now. I'm not sure what your what equipment you're currently using. But yeah, the Blue Snowball is like 50 bucks. The Yeti is 250. So hopefully that wouldn't break the bank for you. But the Blue Yeti is what I'm going for next when I upgrade, because I've had this Blue Snowball for quite a few years. I think it's time to move up a little bit, but it's fine. You know, hopefully it sounds okay. So yeah, those are the patron questions. Thanks to everybody who is a patron of the channel. I'll give you the Patreon page address at the end of the show if you're not a patron yet and you want to become a patron. But for now, let's go to the live chat and see what folks are doing. Hi everybody. So does anybody have questions? Oh, Tom is offering to buy my Blue Snowball. Okay, well, maybe we can talk about it. Yeah, the Blue Yeti Pro. That's what some random geek has made. It's the Blue Yeti Pro condenser mic is 250. That's the one I want to bump up to. Why is the Snowball blue? Why is the Yeti blue? Well, the Snowball is blue because somebody spilled antifreeze in the snow. The Yeti is blue because he broke up with his girlfriend. So he's blue because of that. Let me see. Oh, hey. Hi, Leto. Hi, Julie. Okay, Javonder Barber asks, have you seen Kubo and the Two Strings, Steve? Great animated movie and a fantastic story. I have not. I have not seen it. Sorry. So I can't I can't say. Oh, Jay Dodify, this is a great question. I have a great answer for this. Jay Dodify asks, Steve, since becoming mostly veggie, I've developed a particular affinity for Linda McCartney sausages. They're amazing. What's your favorite veggie junk food? I just discovered it like a week ago. All right? It's Morningstar Farms bacon. It is so close to real bacon. I don't know if you can get it where you are or not, but over here it's Morningstar Farm. Morningstar Farms has a lot of really great vegetarian and vegan stuff. Like their burgers are terrific. They have a wide variety of different burgers, and their hot dogs are pretty good. Sausages are good, and like chicken patties and stuff. Their chicken, the Morningstar Farms vegan chicken tastes so much like real chicken. It's almost like there has to be chicken in it somehow, but there's not. But it's so good. And their Morningstar Farms bacon is just phenomenal. I mean, it's marbled. It's got like the meat and the fat. It looks like real bacon. It cooks like real bacon. It tastes like, it's fantastic. So my favorite vegan, vegetarian junk food is Morningstar Farms bacon at the moment. I'm still just doing backflips over it. It's fantastic. I've never tried the Linda McCartney sausages, so I can't vouch for those. But yeah, those Morningstar Farms bacon is terrific. Malevolent Divinity. Apparently Dan Harmon once sexually harassed a woman, and he came out, admitted it, and apologized like an adult. Why can't more people do that? You know, I think if more people take that route and just sort of admit to it and apologize sincerely and seem to show some kind of real contrition and also a willingness to change and to not do that anymore, I think that will become more common. Now I think it's still the instinctive response to just try to hide or try to deny, or just, you know, deny it and put your head down and wait for it all to blow over. And that's too bad. Because it makes it less likely that people will take responsibility and apologize and you know, step away and try to change and try to make things better. I wish that more people did that. Yeah, because as long as what you did isn't in itself like just utterly unforgivable, or as long as it's not a decades-long pattern of behavior like in Cosby or Weinstein or You know, a lot of the other people who have been accused of the worst things. If it's just something where you said something you shouldn't have said, or you did something you shouldn't have done just one time, and it doesn't reflect overall a pattern of abuse and harassment on your behalf, and you say, oh God, yeah, that's right, I did that, I'm really sorry, and you show through your actions that you're not that kind of a person, or you're not going to do that anymore, I think most people would be okay with that. But it's the denial, it's the calling the accuser a liar, that makes it worse. I mean, if that is one incident in a whole host of incidents. Like if you've been doing stuff like that for years and multiple people come forward and say, yeah, he did that to me, he did that to me, he did that to me, then it might take a little bit more than, you know, I'm really, really sorry, please forgive me. You know, you might have to go away for a while, or you know, it might be indicative of a more serious problem. But yeah, the Dan Harmon situation, I think, is a good example of, if you just fucked up and someone came forward and said he did this to me, and you say, you know what, yeah, I did that, I fucked up, I was an asshole, I'm sorry, I'm very, very sorry, I'm not going to do it anymore, and then you don't do it anymore, like, you know, for most people, I think that would be acceptable. Okay, Aid Trance. When the Ferengi were introduced in The Next Generation, were they a blatant representation of humans of the late 20th century? Yes. In fact, I think some Star Trek writers have basically said that the Ferengi were like a parody of 20th century humans and 20th century capitalism. Yeah. Okay, our principled uncertainty asked a question, too, that some random geek sort of bumped up. I used to support you in the face of some criticism. Do you worry as to why people such as myself have had to leave the left? No, I don't understand why. If the left, if you were in the left to begin with because of your beliefs, because you felt that the left was the place that was pushing for your goals, or was upholding ideals that you held dear, I don't know what it means to believe why would you leave the left? Or I mean, if you stopped supporting me because you no longer were interested in what I was doing, or I did something that you couldn't support, that's completely up to you. But I don't get why people would leave the left if their beliefs are, for the most part, leftist beliefs, you know. Leave the left and go where? Like, do you step away from politics entirely, or do you move to the right? Because I don't really think you can blame the left for moving you to the right. You know, I mean, if every leftist I ever met for the rest of my life was an asshole, that wouldn't make me any more of a conservative. You know, I'm not, when people say that, when people say like, oh, it's people like so-and-so, that's the reason people are leaving the left. I mean, I question the commitment of the people who are leaving the left to begin with. You know what I mean? Radical Bacon says, Roseanne? Yeah, how about that? You know, it's interesting. On the last Pierre the Chef show that me and Christopher did over the weekend, I believe I mentioned the Roseanne reboot. And I said that my hope was that the ratings would tank in the second season of the revival, and it would get canceled, or they wouldn't do anymore, a la the X-Files revival. And it turns out that's not even going to be an issue, because Roseanne was Roseanne on Twitter, and ABC said, nah, nope, that's okay. We can do without that. As someone put it, I forget who, someone put it, they said Roseanne crossed the line that had allowed ABC to ignore how racist she was up to this point. And now they have to be like, okay, she's too racist for us, sorry. I have no pity for her. I feel bad for the people on the crew of the show who are going to have to find other jobs now. I don't feel bad for anyone else in the cast, because most of the people in the cast are successful in their own right. And it's not like, you know, I mean, I love John Goodman. Is John Goodman going to starve because Roseanne's not coming back for another season? I don't think so. The rest of the cast, I think, will be okay. We'll survive. We'll be able to get work if they need it. I feel bad for some of the folks on the crew who will have to find another job, but you know, that happens. That's shows get canceled all the time for good reasons and for bad reasons. And if the show is canceled because the star says something absolutely indefensibly racist in public, like, to me, that's a fine reason to cancel the show. you know. Let me see. Oh yeah, okay. So sorry, J Dotify, that Morningstar Farm stuff isn't available in the UK. You'll stick to eating Lyndon McCartney, gruesome as that sounds. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the Morningstar Farm stuff is great. It might be just a North American thing. Peter Crayon or Crean, I hate that I'm probably mispronouncing your name. Peter Crayon. Crean. Thoughts on Ireland's abortion referendum. I was thrilled. I thought it was great that there was such a turnout, that the outcome was so definitive. I thought it was great, and I like seeing that kind of public support for what to me should be a basic right. You know, I think pregnant people should be allowed to decide whether or not they stay pregnant, and I think it's good for Ireland. It's good for the world to see that kind of thing happen. I know a couple other people said, you know, it's too bad that we have to put what should be basic civil rights up for public referendum. They should just be guaranteed. But you know, I guess that's the way it works. That's the way it has to happen sometimes when society evolves, when you reach a place where something that never used to be considered a basic right comes to be regarded as one, and now you have to take steps to enshrine it in law so that it is protected. You know, I agree. It feels kind of weird. I think it was Captain Andy who said it, and it feels kind of weird to be voting on what you consider a fundamental right, but the concept of what is a fundamental right changes over time. And if necessary, I think it's good to have a popular referendum that enshrines that in law. No, I did not see Computing Forever's reaction. I don't watch any of his stuff. I pay so little attention to the right-wing, reactionary, shitlord, you know, anti-feminist, white nationalists, alt-right, alt-light, all of that, like that whole area. I pay so little attention to that. The only way that I know that what most of them are doing at any given time is that I have friends who pay more attention to it than I do, and they talk about it or post about it. So I don't watch Computing Forever stuff. I have no idea what he thinks. Okay, principled uncertainty. The left has betrayed my values. Since when did we oppose free speech? I don't think the left in general does oppose free speech. How does the left oppose free speech? Free speech, as a couple other people are mentioning in the chat, Dr. Babylon has said it. Free speech doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want without any kind of consequence. Free speech means that you won't be arrested for saying something, that the government will not impose some kind of penalty on you for saying something. It doesn't mean that people can't decide that you're an asshole for saying it. It doesn't mean that your speech has to be affirmed. And it doesn't mean that a private venue has to give you an opportunity to say your speech to an audience. You're not guaranteed an audience. That's not free. That has nothing to do with free speech. If someone says something that a lot of other people consider absolutely reprehensible and offensive and ugly and horrendous, they have a right to, one, say, I don't want to see that person anymore. I don't want that person to be on TV. I don't want that person to be on the radio. I don't want that person to be invited up on stage. I don't want people to hand that person a microphone or put a camera on that person. You're completely fair to ask that. Or if you are the person who makes those decisions, to say, don't hand the microphone to that person. Don't put the camera on that person. That's completely within the bounds of free speech. You're still allowed to say it. You're not going to be put in prison for saying it. But it doesn't mean that people have to pay attention to you or that people have to aid you in spreading your message. So if someone like, for instance, Roseanne wants to tweet just racist dog shit, just insulting, dehumanizing, racist shit, And her employer, ABC, wants to say, okay, well, to hell with her. She's making us look bad. We can't stand behind that. She's given us nothing but bad publicity. And I assume there are probably at least 1 or 2 television executives that still have something like a moral compass who will say, actually, and also, by the way, that offends me personally. I find that morally reprehensible. And they, so, you know, we're not going to put your fucking show on TV anymore. Goodbye. Like, since when does freedom of speech require you to not only respect the legal right of someone to say something, but to affirm that it's good that they said it and support them having a venue from which to say it? I don't think it's good to allow someone to spew a viewpoint that is racist and sexist and intolerant and hateful. I don't think it's good for society that we platform people like that. I don't buy the sunshine is the greatest disinfectant argument. I don't think that bears out in reality. And I can tell you, as someone who has a very small platform, my YouTube channel, I don't invite people on who have those kind of beliefs, and I feel absolutely no responsibility to do that. And I don't allow them to leave comments. I delete their comments. I ban them from my channel. And if I owned a television network and people were saying, hey, you should have this person on, and the person they wanted me to have on was someone who was morally reprehensible, I would say no. I'm not going to give that person a platform. I'm not going to put that person on TV in front of millions of people and just let them say whatever they want and trust that people will be smart enough to figure out that they're evil or full of shit or whatever, because that's not how that works. So no, I don't think the left, by and large, has betrayed the values of free speech. I don't think free speech is as you are portraying it. Free speech means that you're allowed to say it. It doesn't mean that you're guaranteed an audience, and it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed cultural or social immunity from the consequences of your speech. If you say something racist, you're going to get labeled a racist, and you're going to have to suffer the consequences of that. The social consequences of being labeled a racist for saying something racist, or sexist, or homophobic, or transphobic, or xenophobic, or intolerant in some other way. You're going to have to bear the consequences of that. Free speech doesn't protect you from that. Free speech doesn't guarantee freedom from criticism, freedom from being challenged, freedom from being judged, freedom from losing opportunities that you might otherwise have had because people decided that you were a fucking prick for what you said. Let me see. Oh, and by the way, Leto, I know you asked earlier, and yeah, I'm sure you know what the answer is. I haven't watched Legion yet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know. Yeah, I saw you ask it earlier. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to jump back into pre-submitted questions here for a few minutes. Okay, hang on, one more. This is from At the Bridge. I'm with you in principle regarding Roseanne, but does it work both ways? Mao and Stalin were horrible people, so should Marxists be excluded also? Some of my best friends were kulaks. Well, is it fair to paint all Marxists with the same brush that you would paint Mao or Stalin with? I mean, being a Marxist in just a general sense doesn't also make you a Stalinist, you know. I think I've said before, I'm not well read on Marxism, so I don't feel comfortable commenting on it with you know, a lot of specificity. But just because, like, Stalinism is not an unavoidable consequence of Marxism, at least not that I've ever seen, not that I can tell. You know, there are ways of living out a Marxist philosophy, of trying to design a government in line with Marxist ideals that does not end up in Stalinism, at least in theory. You know, maybe in practice it turns out to be a lot more difficult than that. But so no, I don't think it's fair to paint all Marxists, you know, or to say, well, Marxists don't deserve a platform because of Stalin or because of Mao. I think Marxism is a general enough philosophy and a diverse enough philosophy that you can treat it you don't have to treat it that harshly. You don't have to judge all Marxists by historically the most destructive, harmful Marxists that ever, were able to take power. Whereas it's, like Marxism isn't as specific an ideology as something like Nazism. Marxism is a much broader set of ideas, and obviously you can use Marxist principles to do something horrible and destructive and oppressive, but I don't think that's necessarily the only thing you can do with them. Whereas with Nazism, it's pretty much that's the whole reason it's there. But again, I know there are people in the chat who are much more well-read on Marx than I am, who could better answer that question. But no, I don't think it's fair to say, well, Stalin was an asshole, he killed a bunch of people, therefore we shouldn't listen to any Marxists ever. I don't think that's quite fair, and I don't think it's quite the same thing. All right, let me go to some pre-submitted questions again. These are questions not from patrons, but from people who left comments on the previous Ask Away video. And this one is from Dr. Babylon, who I also saw in the chat. Hi, Dr. Babylon. Thanks for joining us again. And Dr. Babylon is asking about Ang Lee's Hulk. Steve, why do you like Ang Lee's Hulk? In my head, I compare Lee's Hulk a lot to Man of Steel. Both films are humorless and have relatively little action in their over 2-hour runtime, which wouldn't be a big deal if they weren't also poorly paced and with a lot of dull acting, especially from the leads and love interests. Neither film is a faithful rendering of the comics, and both feel like the director was just using the characters and trappings to explore their preferred theme. Both stories are relentlessly serious, except for some unintentional goofiness. In Hulk, that serious story is juxtaposed against gimmicky editing. Man of Steel's Jesus allegory is not only ham-fisted, but incongruous with how the protagonist actually behaves most of the time. Hulk had that stupid fight against the mutant dogs, and Man of Steel's fight scenes had cartoonishly ostentatious collateral damage. The films are also alike in ways that aren't necessarily bad. Both star a hero whose origin is very simple and could be explained quickly, but the film instead spends a lot of time developing and elaborating on it. Is The Hulk one of those bad movies you enjoy but don't feel the need to defend, or are you convinced it is actually a good movie? If it's the latter, then please make a video like the one you made for Superman Returns explaining why. Okay. Yeah, I actually, to answer that last question, yeah, I do think that Hulk is a good movie, that Ang Lee's Hulk is a good movie. I genuinely think that it's a good movie. What can I say other than, like, I enjoy the fact that it's serious. I enjoy the fact that it takes a really super goofy character like Hulk and chooses to use that character to make a film about parental relationships and about child abuse and about anger and the difficulty in living with anger and a character who is haunted by the crimes of his father and by the treatment he received by his father. There's a lot about that I found really powerful, and I liked it as soon as I saw it. And what action there is in Hulk I thought was fantastic. Yeah, the fight with the dogs maybe is a little goofy when you step back from it and you're like, he's fighting mutant dogs. Yeah, that's silly. It's silly, but there were other action scenes in it that I thought were fantastic. I thought when the Hulk was being chased by the army, when he's being shot at by the helicopters and the planes. There's that scene in the desert where he picks up the tank by the gun turret by the barrel and flings it over his head and just throws it. And you can see it fly far behind him, and it lands like on the horizon. You just see such an incredible demonstration of the strength of the Hulk. And then he has that roar at the end. I thought the action in Hulk was fantastic. I like the acting. I think we were joking in my Patreon hangout over the weekend about how, yeah, I don't really buy Eric Bana as a scientist, but overall I thought Eric Bana's performance was terrific. And I loved Sam Elliott as General Ross. I thought he was amazing with this incredibly just tightly wound performance. He's just like a clenched fist for the entire movie, just a tensed muscle. And I thought he was amazing. I loved his performance, and I thought Jennifer Connelly was terrific. I like Jennifer Connelly in almost everything. I think she's a very underrated actress. And she won an Oscar for like the crappiest. She won an Oscar. She won Best Supporting Actress for A Beautiful Mind, which is one of the most overrated pieces of fucking crap. Yeah, I thought I like the acting. I don't know. We just disagree. We view the movie in different ways. I like the acting. I like the screenplay. I like the fact that it uses Hulk to deal with serious themes. I like the action. I think it looks great. I think it's a fantastic movie, and maybe I will do a video about it. Another friend of mine recommended a few years ago that I give it the Superman Returns treatment and do a video defending it, and I might do that at some point. I think it would be good, and it might be a good subject maybe for us to tackle next year on Late Seating when we do our birthday episodes next May, and we bring in movies that aren't necessarily fitting in our format, because Hulk would be a great one to do. And I believe, yeah, we're past the 10-year point on it, so whew, yeah, we can do Hulk. But yeah, that'd be a fun one to do. There it is. Jason Tracy, is there such a thing as ethical consumption under capitalism? Ooh, I think there's such a thing as more ethical and less ethical consumption. I kind of agree with people who say that the way capitalism exists and with the requirements that capitalism imposes on people, so it's almost impossible, or it may in fact be impossible, to have consumption under capitalism without somebody or something being exploited or you know, ruined in some way. I kind of agree with that. I think practically speaking, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible. So I would prefer, instead of talking about ethical consumption under capitalism as though it's a matter of ethical and not ethical, I think there's more ethical and less ethical. There are choices you can make, there are purchases you can make that are more ethical than other choices you could make. But ultimately, you're still forced to participate in a system that is rife with oppression and exploitation. So that's what I would say. It's a matter of more and less, not a matter of either or. Mel Eder. Steve, what do you think of Matt Dillahunty? I have to say his recent attitudes and speeches are disappointing, to say the least. Boy, you said it. I will get behind that. I will agree with that. I don't know if I would have ever said I was a friend of Matt's, but we used to be on good terms. You know, we used to get along. I met him. I think I've met him in person once, and we got along fine. We sat down and talked about Star Trek, you know, but that was like 3 years ago. And yeah, his response to MythCon last year was disappointing, to say the least. His arguments with various people on Twitter over the ethics of punching Nazis was disappointing. He's definitely a guy who he loves occupying the high ground, theoretically speaking. Philosophically speaking, he loves not getting his hands dirty and sitting on the fence or staying above the fray or thinking that he's above the fray and thinking that he's a good he's a good guy for doing that. You know, I've often seen him tell people, don't lose the high ground, stay above it, don't sacrifice the high ground. And in practice, what that often means is don't take a side, or don't oppose bad things, but don't oppose bad things all that energetically. Because if you oppose bad things too energetically, then somehow you become as bad as the thing you're opposing. There's a lot of that in Matt's rhetoric. A lot of both sides isms and a lot of fence sitting. And I have no use for that, and I have no respect for that. And I think someone in Matt's position, someone as smart as Matt, someone with the amount of respect that Matt has, specifically in the atheist community, could be doing a lot more good than he's doing. And he seems to be more interested in staying above the fray and staying in the middle and covering his ass and covering the asses of his similarly minded friends in the movement, which is why he still hangs out with the likes of Sam Harris, and until very recently was also willing to be seen in public with the likes of Lawrence Krauss and Michael Shermer. He knew what Lawrence Krauss was years ago. He knew what Michael Shermer was years ago. He still was, as long as nobody gave him a hard time about it in public, he was fine appearing on stage with those people, knowing how abusive and awful they were, knowing the things that they had done. He was still okay going on stage with them, having his name appear on marquees with them, having his picture appear next to theirs on posters. He was fine with that, even though he knew what they were. It wasn't until other people started complaining about what they were that he all of a sudden realized, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. So he's a coward. He's an opportunist. He looks out for himself, and he could be doing a lot more good than he's doing. So I don't really have a whole lot of use for him anymore, and it's a shame because we used to get along. But I don't have a great deal of respect for people who cover their ass and refuse to stick their neck out for people and refuse to condemn easily condemnable things because they think it will be too controversial, and are willing to share the stage with bigoted, abusive, harassing people as long as they don't get too much of a blowback from it. I don't think that's an ethical or a moral or an admirable thing to do. And I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think that Matt really falls into those categories anymore. So yeah, that's what I think of Matt. Yeah, so that was the last pre-submitted question. Let's go back to the live chat here for a second. We're in the final 5-ish minutes of the show. So why don't we do a lightning round? If anybody in the live chat has questions for a lightning round, just get them loaded and get them ready to go. And when the timer starts, hit me with the questions, and we'll do a 5-minute lightning round to end the show. So these will be lightning round questions that are, well, actually, here, you know what? Let me play the intro. I got the intro here. This is what's going to happen.
The lightning round. Rapid fire questions. Glib and adequate answers.
See that? I could have hemmed and hawed, or I could have just played that for you. And I think I made the right choice. So here we go. Lightning round. As soon as you see the timer start, let the questions fly. Okay, first one from Dr. Babylon. How would you explain socialism to somebody? Oh, boy. Socialism is the idea of taxing people who can afford it, taking a relatively small amount of wealth from wealthy people and redistributing it in the form of services to people who need it. Helping people in society who need help, creating common services in society that everybody can benefit from, giving specific assistance to people who need specific assistance. I think that's what socialism is. It's probably a very clunky explanation, but I think it gets the message across. Tom MacDonald, how many roads must a man walk down? It's actually 43. Douglas Adams wasn't completely correct. It was 43. I challenge you to a duel for the Self-Hating Cis Award. What weapons do you choose? I do not choose weapons, Larry, because I take whatever's coming to me. I mean, actually, no. For you, I don't know. For you, I would choose maybe like a mace. I would take whatever's coming to me from a trans person, because that's what a self-loathing cis means. It means a trans person comes at you and you're just like, yes, I know. But for you, I don't know. Go watch Legion is not a question, Leto. Powell, would you say you're an advocate for free speech? I wouldn't say I'm an advocate as in I'm actively going out and like making that a cause. I believe in it. I think it's an important principle. I don't like people who abuse it. I don't like it when it is wrongfully denied to people. But I don't know if it would be fair for me to call myself an advocate, because I don't know how much work I actually do. Radical Bacon, butts? Yeah, sure, butts. Nothing wrong with that. Cowboy 1000, do you like Dan Errol? He's one of my favorite people. I love Dan. He's one of my favorite people. All the things I just said about Matt Dillahunty that I don't admire, Dan is the opposite of that. And I admire him tremendously for all of the reasons that I don't admire Matt. Favorite philosophers. I love, although there's a lot of it that I don't like, but the first philosopher that I ever really came to know and think of as being important to me in the way I thought was Voltaire. So I would say Voltaire as an important philosopher. He's kind of an entry-level guy, but I haven't done a lot of reading on philosophy. I'm not very well read on philosophy, so there aren't that many philosophers that I'm comfortable saying, oh yes, the work of has meant a lot to me, because it's in most cases I have a very thin, shallow understanding of them. So I would have to say Voltaire. Malevolent Divinity, would you rather be able to use 1,000 reasonable but surmountable arguments in a day, or to make a single unstoppable argument once a day? Oh, the single unstoppable argument once a day. I mean, it's just nice to be right and to win, isn't it? And if it's an unstoppable argument, presumably I'm right, so I win the argument. So winning one argument a day is enough for me. I don't need to have, 1,000 arguments where I'm reasonable but I might lose. Who wants to argue that much? I'll just argue once and I'll win. At the Bridge, personal favorite baseball player ever, Eddie Murray. Eddie Murray was my hero when I was a kid. When he left the Orioles, when he was traded from the Orioles to, I believe first it was to the Dodgers, and then to the Indians. But yeah, when Eddie Murray left the Orioles, it broke my heart. I think I was 7 or 8 years old when Eddie was traded, or when he left, and it just broke my heart. So yeah, Eddie Murray, all-time favorite player. Not second place is probably Cal Ripken, but Cal is way behind Eddie in my heart. Leto Adder, holy shit, I need to explain socialism to you, babe. Okay, I'm up for that. I'm up for that. Do I have a baseball, Radical Bacon, do I have a baseball mitt? Yes, I do. I do. I don't have it within reaching distance, but yes, I do have one. It's just like an outfielder's mitt. Principled Uncertainty. Should I take my son to see Solo? I haven't seen it, so I can't tell you. I don't know. But it's directed by Ron Howard, so I would say no. I think, in general, going to see a Ron Howard movie is a waste of time. All Hail Blue Whale. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Someone says, no, you should take them with other people. Yeah. Do I like my frozen peaches? Yes, I do. I love frozen peaches, especially with some vanilla ice cream. Delicious. Malevolent Divinity, if you were killed and sent to save another world with one superpower, what superpower would you choose? I'd like to fly. I'd like to fly. I don't know if I would save anybody, but flying is good. And that's it for the lightning round. That's it for the questions. Thanks for making it, Varjak. Glad you could make it. I'll answer the last couple of questions that are in the chat, and then we'll call this we'll call this to an end. Yeah, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Bruce wants to know. What is a book you memorably considered doing an atheist reads for but decided against? Why, or what made the process memorable? I wanted to do an atheist read series about one of the books that was written by the televangelist D. James Kennedy, and I think I just decided not to, because I just kept finding other books that I thought were better, or were more popular, or more well known, or would just be better for the show. But I wanted to do, there were a couple books that D. James Kennedy wrote that he always used to pitch on his show, and I wanted to do one of those, just because D. James Kennedy is someone who I used to watch on TV a lot, and he was sort of like a cartoon character to me. He's this almost impossibly buffoonishly smug, pompous preacher, and he had a very, very stilted way of speaking, and he always had his hair done just so, and he always addressed his congregation in a gown, like a graduate's gown, like an academic gown, like he was some kind of philosopher or something. And I wanted to do one of his books, but I just never got around to it, and I always found other things to do. And Jonathan Burke, what is the best cure for atheist smug? Being critical of yourself, turning your skepticism inward, and recognizing that there's probably a lot of things that you're wrong about, big things and small things, that your brain is not a perfect reasoning machine, that just because you have the capacity for reason doesn't mean that you are perfectly reasonable, or free from bias, or free from prejudice, or free from ignorance. And just because you got the right answer to one question whether or not there's a God doesn't mean that you are right about anything else, or that you're any smarter than anybody else. That's the cure for atheist smug. Humility and self-criticism and being willing to look at yourself and be skeptical of yourself. Yeah, Dr. Babla, yeah, that's a much shorter answer. Self-awareness is the best cure, absolutely. Would I ever do an atheist reads of any end times fiction? Screw Tape Letters was a good one to do fiction, because it's not it's fiction, but it's also very didactic. It definitely has a message to send. Lewis wasn't just telling a story, he had a point to make. So it's very apologistic in its character, in addition to telling a story. So I don't know if there are other works of fiction that would be as good. I mean, I'm sure there's obviously there's a point being made in end times fiction, but I don't know if the lessons or the arguments are as easy to separate out and talk about and discuss as they were with Screwtape. But I don't know. In the near future, I won't be doing atheist reads about anything. After the next one starts in about a month, which is going to be on The Case for a Creator by Lee Strobel. And after that, I'm not doing any of them I don't have any scheduled. Like next year, I'm not doing any. I'm done with it, at least for the foreseeable future. I won't say that I'll never ever do it again, but I'm going to stop doing it as a regular thing. So, okay, that is it. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all in the chat for the questions. Leto and the other socialists in the chat, I'm sorry for screwing up the explanation of what socialism is. I want to remind everybody before I go that I not only do YouTube stuff, but I also co-host a couple of podcasts with the splendid Jason Harding, and they are the Late Seating podcast, where we review movies, and also the Ensign's Log podcast, where we make fun of a particular famous science fiction series that was on in the 60s that starred William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley. And you can listen to new episodes of both of those, as well as episodes of all the other awesome Let Me Listen podcasts at letmelistenpodcast.com. And actually, I think that the new episode of Ensign's Log just went up today. So you can go listen to that. And you can also listen to the most recent episode of Late Seating from last week. And also, if you enjoy these YouTube videos that I do, if you enjoy the videos that I make, if you had a good time watching this, if you like the other videos I do, and you want to support me and help me continue to do what I do, you can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives and become a patron for as little as $1 a month. And the benefit that you can take advantage of relative to these Ask Away live streams is a few days before I do one of these, I will put up a patrons only post on my Patreon page, and you can ask a question there that I will make sure to get to during the Ask Away live streams. Patron questions are guaranteed answers. I will answer any question that a patron asks me that posts it on that pre-submit question page. And so if you have a question you want to make sure that I answer and you're a patron, you can ask it before the show on that call for questions page, and I'll make sure I get to it at the top of the show. Just one of the many things I try to do to show my appreciation for patrons who literally make my life possible. So thank you to all of you who are Patreon patrons of mine at whatever level you pledge. And thanks to all of you for watching this and for participating in this at whether you're a patron or not. I appreciate the support and the attention, and I'll be back in 2 weeks to do this again. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.